Kevin Bowen here. Don't forget to listen to The Fan now on 93.5 or 107.5 FM. And check out our latest coverage online at 1075thefan.com.
We got a real football game Sunday afternoon, folks. A real football game here in 2019. Yes, it is finally here. The chaos of the offseason is over. That means they're going to count in the win and loss column on Sunday afternoon in L.A. Joey Molinaro across the way. Wow, that rhymed. That was good. Kevin Bowen here on Tuesday morning after our Labor Day. We wanted you all to make sure that we got a little bit of quarterback news publicly before we came back with another podcast. So this edition of Kevin's Corner, we will obviously hit on the new deal for Jacoby Brissett and the new addition that is Brian Hoyer, and give our thoughts on that, and then also roster cut down. We saw that happen over the weekend. For the most part, Joey, I think pretty status quo on that. I don't think anything too surprising there once you got through the whole weekend and you ended up making a move at quarterback and whatnot. But definitely a few takeaways to have from that. And then we'll get back into Twitter questions. It feels like a while since we've had, I guess maybe just because the one podcast, they were all Andrew Luck Twitter questions. So, yeah, man. Do you have a good weekend?
I did. Yes. It was relaxing, and it's always the irony of Labor Day and you're not laboring. And except right. When you didn't play high school football, but that was a big thing in high school football. You'd have practice on Monday morning of Labor Day, and the coach would do the old laboring on Labor Day, boys. Let's go. And
gotta love that line, right?
Didn't do any of that, but it was good. How about you? I know there was a lot going on.
Yeah, it was busy. Colts had practice on Sunday, and then a lot of news stuff yesterday. But I could unwind last night and watch Notre Dame look pretty sloppy, to be honest with you, in their opener.
They didn't cover.
They did not cover, so a lot of people out there frustrated by that. But, yeah, for me, let's just get a road win. Let's get healthy, and let's regroup because Georgia's coming in a few weeks.
Sure is, and that's what the Colts are going to be trying to do in L.A. this Sunday. But before we get to that, you mentioned the news that broke yesterday. A lot of quarterback news, one of those being the extension for Jacoby Brissett, 2 years, $30 million, $20 million guaranteed.
Yeah, good for him. And I think that's largely really him. I guess deciding what that contract is. I can't think of the exact phrase. He doesn't have an agent, so I think he has some sort of representation, but no like legal certified agent. So
why
good
is
for
that?
Jacoby Brissett. I don't know. You know, Jacoby he's a unique guy, and I guess when you hear that, people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, is he gonna do what Andrew Luck did?" And it's not that crazy, but yeah. Good for Jacoby Brissett. I think there are some players around, multiple professional sports that maybe are going down this route a little bit more, don't feel the need to pay an agent, the fees that you have to pay an agent and whatnot. So this is the first contract negotiated, I guess is probably the phrase that I was looking for, that Jacoby Brissett has had to negotiate in his NFL career. And, Joey, I really don't have any issue with this. It goes against a little bit of, like, what we think is how you handle NFL contracts 101. Like, you pay a guy once they've proven themselves. And Jacoby Brissett certainly has not proven himself to be the 19th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Like, he just flat out hasn't. But this is a different circumstance, and this is an unusual position the Colts are in with their current quarterback situation. And I'm okay with the Colts giving this sort of contract to him. A big reason why is I think it alleviates some stress off of Jacoby Brissett's shoulders. He's a human. He didn't want to talk about it even well before the Andrew Luck stuff happened of like, hey, man, you're going into an uncertain year. What's that like, This is the last chance for maybe you to prove yourself, like during the preseason, because you might not get a meaningful rep in the regular season as you try to audition for 31 other NFL teams. So I think it removes a little bit of the cloudy future. Yes, it's not the most secure contract. It's only for 2 years. And for anyone out there that's confused by what that means, he is under team security through next season. So this is a new contract, 2-year deal. They took the final year of this rookie deal that he currently was on. He was due, I think, $2 million and change this year. They ripped that up and they said, here's the 2-year deal. So through 2019 and through 2020, Jacoby Brissett is under team security for the Colts. But I guess it's already such a chaotic situation, Joey. Why have more stress on his shoulders?
Right.
Why not take something else? And Jacoby Brissett never struck me as a guy that never struck me as a guy. God, my grammar's horrible this morning. He never struck me as a guy that was like, man, I'm always thinking about the next deal. Like, but it's inevitable. Like, it's human instinct. You're going to think about those sorts of things. So I think smart by the Colts to do that. And at the end of the day, you probably had to look at it and be like, wait, we're paying Brian Hoyer that much and we're going to pay Jacoby Brissett that little? It's kind of like he is our starting quarterback. He needs to be making a little bit more money because he's no longer a backup. Like, that's the reality of the situation. He is no longer that. And so Jacoby Brissett gets that bump. And the Colts are clearly saying in this is, you are our guy. We really, really believe in you. We think you are the quarterback of the future. But we still have a little bit of an out. Just a little bit of an out. The Colts have tons of cap space. What they've done with this deal is, it's like you said, Joey, 2 years, $30 million. The franchise tag is worth $26 million. That's the projection for next year quarterback. So if you were to tag him, that would have been $26 million on the books for next year and only $2 million on the books for this year. So similar, almost $30 million. But the Colts look at it and say, why don't we take a chunk of that 26 and front load it here on 2019 on these books because we have so much cap space. So that's what the Colts have done. They front loaded this deal, and at the same time, yes, Jacoby Brissett is under contract through 2020, but if he bombs, I think you're still in a position to go ahead and make another move at quarterback, i.e. 2020 draft. So yeah, that's how I kind of look at things.
Will there be 2021 draft?
2020 in that you could cut ties with Jacoby Brissett after the season. You could cut ties with Brian Hoyer, move Jacoby Brissett back to being your backup.
Yeah.
Maybe have a bit of a placeholder situation of like almost do what New England did of drafting Jarrett Stidham in the third round. I think that's where they drafted him. Maybe it was later. And then they just cut ties with Brian Hoyer, and now Stidham is their new backup. Basically have that rookie contract. Maybe you aren't drafting a guy in round 1. Maybe you're drafting a guy in round 3. Something like that. You can opt out in this situation with Jacoby Brissett. So your hands aren't tied to necessarily being like, oh my God, we have to pay him. Like, he is our guy, etched in stone, put him on the side of Lucas Oil Stadium sort of deal. I think the Colts believe that he will get there and that he is certainly going to be their quarterback of the future, but it's not this like set in stone, 110%. He is our guy. Basically, how I look at it right now is this. You win 8 games. Jacoby Brissett looks like an average NFL quarterback. You probably just go with the contract situation that you currently have for that 2020 season. He wins 10 or 11. You might give him that make a contract next year as he's going into the final year of his contract. He wins 6, and team wins. You hate to put that much pressure on a quarterback, but what I'm saying, like, they win 6, that means Jacoby Brissett plays like a 6-win quarterback. They win 8, he plays like an 8-win quarterback. If they win 6, that's when I think you have to evaluate some things. And I really think the Colts have got to make sure they're honest with themselves, because Frank Reich and Chris Ballard are obsessed with Jacoby Brissett. But for the Colts' sake, fans' sake, this franchise future's sake, if they win 6 games, Colts, be honest with yourself. Critically evaluate your quarterback like you would critically evaluate every other position on the team. Don't have rose-colored glasses with Jacoby Brissett, because we don't know. They're still unknown there. I mean, this is not I feel like in the last 10 days, Jacoby Brissett has all of a sudden turned into this top 15 quarterback in the NFL. Like, based off what?
Got to remember what we've seen so far.
Right. And again, he's been thrown into some unfortunate circumstances. He'll be thrown into a much more favorable one on Sunday afternoon in this entire season, but there is still an unknown there. Before we move on to Brian Hoyer, I felt like this contract extension was coming, and I asked Frank Reich on Sunday, basically the whole of like, all right, the differences between Carson Wentz going down and going to Nick Foles and Andrew Luck having the shocking retirement and going to Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, one is injury-related, one is retirement, and one happened in week, 14 of the NFL season, and one happened 2 weeks before the start of the regular season. And Reich's like, the biggest difference is Nick Foles, for lack of a better term, he was a placeholder. Like, Carson Wentz was having an MVP season. Nothing Nick Foles could have done, clearly, nothing he did, would have had him as the franchise quarterback in Philly. Whereas with Jacoby Brissett, Frank Reich is like, he is the man. He is our answer. Now, he said this Sunday before the contract extension came on Monday, but it was almost like Frank Reich saying, like, that is our franchise quarterback. We firmly believe in him. And then 24 hours later, the Colts say, here's money and contract value that indicates we are 95% sure you are a franchise quarterback. That's how I feel like this contract extension looks.
Does he talk on Wednesday?
Yes, he will talk tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. So Wednesday will be his every day that he talks, just like Andrew Luck talked every Wednesday. So yeah, we'll hear from him tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow around lunchtime.
Man, what a surreal scene, though. I mean, good for him. But
can you believe the last
that,
10 days for him?
Right. I mean, all of a sudden, now you have this contract. Now you have more money. Now you have more security. Now you have, a whole crowd of people coming to your locker every Wednesday when that used to not be the case, besides 2017. It's a wild transition, man.
Think about it, man. We started this podcast right around Jacoby Brissett's first start with the Colts.
Yep.
We're approaching 2 years with this podcast. And I've gone back and watched more of that 2017 season. There's a play late in the game. They beat the Cleveland Browns, week 3, Jacoby's first win. Late in the game, he has Quan Bray as one of his wideouts.
Wow.
Quan Bray. When I say you're in a more comfortable situation, your fourth wideout Sunday in L.A. will be Deion Kane or Paris Campbell.
And
not Quan Bray.
I was looking up gifts to post because of that contract, and one of the gifts was the touchdown he scored against the Broncos, and I could not tell you who the offensive line. It looked like an extra in a commercial. Honestly, like one of those weird 68s who has an unathletic body who you don't even, like, the last name doesn't even matter.
For sure.
And that, to your point, not only with the receivers, but the O-line as well.
It was a no-name group, and now you have 4 top 40 draft picks around you, besides Anthony Costanzo, who was still there with him. I think Ryan Kelly was banged up, wasn't he, for a lot of that 2017 season? So, good for Jacoby Brissett. Happy payday, certainly for him.
Brian Hoyer, I think, is the best possible option to get as a guy to make you feel comfortable at backup quarterback.
You said it 99% perfectly, and I would also throw in realistic. Best realistic option for all those out there clamoring for Colin Kaepernick. He's not going to come here to be a backup. He hasn't played in the NFL in 3 years. You'd have to totally change your offense for him if he got into the game, and you'd put a circus at West 56th Street. I love Colin Kaepernick as a football player. I think he is I loved watching him play with San Francisco and all of that. But for the people out there, and these are mostly, I'm talking to the YouTube commenters, I just felt like I had to throw that in there. We're talking realistic options 10 days before the regular season started. And that's where you were at. And, I think I had said it maybe on last week's podcast, Joey, about roster cuts. At the time, Brian Hoyer was still with the Patriots. So I didn't think Brian Hoyer would be on the open market. And I felt like you go get your Brock Osweiler or whatever. That's your placeholder for a couple weeks, and then Chad Kelly is your backup throughout the 2019 season. But when Brian Hoyer became available, I think that just shifted a lot of thinking of, we got to go get that guy. Like, he is the top backup considering his history in the league, the variety of offenses he's been in. I mean, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady last year did not shy away from offering praise to Brian Hoyer as, like, when he runs scout team, like, he knows those offenses really well. He knew the Sean McVay Rams offense very well, and I think he was a big sounding board for what New England was able to do in that Super Bowl on the defensive side of the ball. So I think he'll help you out there. Now, if he gets in the game, I mean, shit, he's still Brian Hoyer. Like, I'm not sitting here and acting like you're going to win 9 or 10 games. Can he go win a football game? Sure. Is he also like 1-13 in his last 14 starts? Yes, now he's been on some god-awful teams, but there's this line there of he's competent. He provides you a veteran voice in that quarterback room, which I think is needed, especially if and when you bring back Chad Kelly in some capacity as well. There's a bit of an overlap with him and Frank Reich. Their time in Arizona was small together, but Frank Reich definitely knows him. And yeah, I just think this made the most sense to me, Joey, of like, you've got money to spend, bring the guy back to the Midwest, been in the league for 10 years, I think 37 starts in the league. I mean, hell, the 2 best games of his career.
Yep.
Inside of the drum. Lucas Oil Stadium, career highs with the 49ers in 2017. Game Jacoby Brissett won. And then the Bears, I think, in 2018. He threw for over 350 yards. 2016
yeah.
Bears. Yeah. Threw for over 350 in that game. I think it was like 390, I want to say, with the 49ers. So, or maybe it was vice versa, those 2 games. But, so yeah, I don't really have any issue with it.
Let me throw this your way, because this, when I saw it, and especially when I saw the number of years and the number of the contract was worth, this is what I initially thought. Let me know if it's crazy. Bringing a guy like Brian Hoyer for that long.
3 years. For
3 years.
For those that missed it, I think it was $12 million total.
With the idea of what we talked about earlier, what you mentioned with this could be kind of your hands aren't tied with Jacoby Brissett, right? So after this year, let's say things don't go as planned, unfortunately, for Jacoby.
Yeah.
Colts say, okay, you know what? We're going to ride with Brian Hoyer to level, to just get us through 2020 here.
Oh, shoot. Whoa. Where are you going?
Hear me out. Getting rid of Jacoby.
Yeah.
We got Brian Hoyer here. We're going to just kind of let it play out.
You don't want to
setting
draft the
ourselves
quarterback
up for 2021 when you have like a Trevor Lawrence and somebody like that coming
What about
out.
drafting a quarterback in 2020? And Brian Hoyer's still your backup.
Who would that quarterback be?
Tua, Justin Herbert, Jake
So you'd
Fromm.
be trading up. You'd be using
probably.
You'd be using the draft capital that you have to get up there to get one of those guys.
Yeah, or you
Okay.
try and do what Kansas City did, and because if you bomb with Jacoby, that means in my mind you bomb with your record. So you probably only win 6 games. So that means you're at least in the top 10. You're still in the range to either stand pat and try to get some quarterback,
Trade up a few spots,
or trade up a few spots with that extra draft
I
capital.
guess I just had my eyes so much on Trevor Lawrence in 2021
Trust
that I
me,
was
you're
thinking
not the
that
only
way.
one.
Right. Okay. But initially, when I saw that deal, I was like, okay, this is a guy that's trying to give them the opportunity to, hey, you know what? We're not going to be Scott Tolzien terrible, but we're definitely not going to be in contention, and we're getting our quarterback of the future. He's just a guy to kind of tread the water.
I think it's more so just both sides of the party obviously agree to this 3-year deal. The Colts had to probably throw a few more years onto that because Brian Hoyer was in high demand. And Hoyer's thinking to himself, I'm turning 34 next month. I want to make sure I have some security in contract years. And the Colts look at it as well as no matter what you're doing at quarterback, no way do I think Brian Hoyer will be the starter here. No way. But they look at it as either you're Jacoby Brissett's backup or, which again, they don't really think this, potentially that 2020 quarterback. I think you have to make a decision next year on who your quarterback of the future is. Yes, technically you could wait till 2021, but to me, you're delaying things too long. That is an approach you could take in baseball or basketball. That's not an approach in my mind you can take in the NFL. I think you have to critically evaluate Jacoby Brissett this year, and the next year you make that decision. We're going to give him the 5-year mega deal over the summer, or it didn't work out, and we have to go draft a quarterback in 2020. I think you got too good of a team in this kind of core right now where you can't wait till T.Y. Hilton's 32 years old. Something like that. So, yeah, I think that, I like Hoyer. I'm sure we'll get a lot of Chad Kelly questions and Twitter questions. Let's just address it now. What I think it means for Kelly is this. In an ideal world, the Colts would stay super healthy and they could bring him up to their 53-man roster for the entire year. That's a really ideal world, and that's probably not likely. Right now, the Colts are extremely healthy. But can you have him on your 53 for like a month or two and then try to sneak him to your practice squad? part of me thinks that some team out there would put a claim in for him. I mean, there are teams in a lot more quarterback hell than the Colts. It's amazing to me the Colts have had this much quarterback news in the last 10 days. Like, this is life. This is your franchise now.
Yep.
This is where you're at. You are a play away from Brian effing Hoyer getting in the football game.
Mm-hmm.
That is amazing. Can you imagine if I
August
told you that?
23rd? No.
If I had told you that 2 weeks ago?
No.
A play away from Brian Hoyer under center. The man that's played for the Browns, the Cardinals, the Patriots, the 49ers, the Bears, the pride of Michigan State.
Hoyer Magic. Alive and well.
Does he wear a glove?
I think so, yeah. I think he's got the old robot arm type of deal. Either on the left hand or the right, or both.
So that's what I think life for Chad Kelly looks like. You know, again, ideally, 53-man roster, probably more likely you're going to have to eventually put him on your practice squad. And I think you still roll moving forward. I think Chad Kelly's an exclusive rights free agent next year, which basically means the Colts can bring him back on a very cheap contract. I think you still try and move forward with him, but this will be a big learning year for Chad Kelly. That's what yesterday's news signifies to me.
Let's get to that 53-man roster, Kevin. You had it on Saturday afternoon. The final 53-man roster was announced. Heard from Chris Ballard and Frank Reich then on Sunday, I believe, correct? Addressing those moves that they made and why they picked the guys they did. You only missed 2 on your roster projections, right?
Yeah.
What do you think overall, though? What's your takeaways from the roster cuts?
Yeah, I did a lot better on that than I do in the March Madness tournament.
Yeah.
I was pleased. Basically what I had, and again, this is with everything playing out, knowing full well you couldn't have Philip Walker on your 53, knowing full well Roland Milligan wasn't going to be on your football team, and you parted ways with him. I had an extra offensive lineman because I thought Chris Ballard would go there, and then I had Jihad Ward getting cut. But that was me thinking what Chris Ballard was going to do. Remember, Joey, in past podcasts, what have I said? Give me 8 offensive linemen. There's no need for more. Give me 8. And that's exactly what Ballard did. I was surprised, and I asked Ballard that on Sunday, and basically he was like, we wanted to keep a 10th defensive lineman, a.k.a. Jihad Ward is more talented than Jacob Eldrenkamp. That's more or less what you're saying.
Sure.
Which is so true, and I like that. And you're also keeping a 6 wide out, a 4th running back, some depth in the secondary. So you just didn't have the luxury of keeping a 9th offensive lineman, which, again, it's a little bit of growth, I think, of Chris Ballard as general manager of realizing, okay, there are more talented players elsewhere on this roster. If I don't feel good about my 9th or 10th offensive lineman, why should I keep them? You only dress 7 on game day. Have a couple on your practice squad. I think they have 1. Or I think they have 2 on the practice squad, Jackson Barton and Jake Eldrenkamp, so go there. A few takeaways I had, Joey, was this. You've avoided the major injuries. Jabal Shear is not going on an injured reserve. I don't think Jabal Shear's return is imminent, but I don't think he's going on. Ballard said he's not going on IR. Good news there. And as I sit here right now on Tuesday morning, Sheard's probably the only guy I put on the inactive list for Sunday. That's it. Jordan Wilkins, Jonathan Williams, a little bit up in the air there. I think Kenny Moore will play through the broken thumb. But that's really it. He kept the 6 wide out. I think that was pretty much foregone sort of conclusion. I'll tell you what, Joey, we haven't talked since that preseason finale. Paris Campbell's fast.
Yes, he is.
He's got to play. He's got to play on Sunday. Got to give you some role. Too good, too fast to keep off the field. Paris Campbell and Deion Kane are coming. They both showed this preseason, Joey. Yak. That's been missing. Here's the ball. Go do something with the ball in your hands. The Colts have not had that. It's been sorely, sorely missed. I've said it before. I think T.Y. Hilton is an outstanding receiver. If you look at his numbers, it's Hall of Fame, like through the first 7 seasons of an NFL career. But the yards after catch, I guess I expected them to be a little bit more from him. Yes, there's been certainly moments of it. I think of a game in Houston with Jacoby Brissett. Hilton up the sidelines. I think of the San Diego game a few years ago when he ran away from Jason Verrett, the Cleveland game a few years ago with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. But when I thought when T.Y. Hilton was going to be drafted, I guess I just expected more of that. Deion Kane showed that against the Bears.
Yes.
The Bears. And then Paris Campbell showed it on that crossing route where he catches a pretty simple 5-6 yard route, and boom, his speed just simply runs away from the defense for 25 more yards, and there's your 31-yard gain. That's what you need. And that's what Jacoby Brissett needs right now. He needs guys that are going to go win a 50-50 ball and then make a play with the ball in their hands. So those two in the offense could not be coming at a better time. So he kept Zach Pascal. Yeah, I kind of expected that. Hale Henches over Ross Travis. You know, I felt like over time that's what the Colts were going to do. Emphasize the run game. That's what you want from Hale Henches. And then lastly, we saw they claimed Ryan Lewis. Isn't he a singer?
I'm not familiar with Ryan Lewis.
I think him and Macklemore had a song.
Oh, yeah. That's his that's Macklemore's producer guy.
Yeah.
Sidekick.
Yeah. So Ryan Lewis is actually the son of a former NFL player, Will Lewis, who worked with Chris Ballard in Kansas City. He was a director of pro personnel, I believe, there. And basically with Lewis, they think there's higher defensive ceiling than you had with Chris Milton. Great run for Chris Milton. Great special teams player. Got claimed by the Titans. Ryan Lewis doesn't have a whole lot of special teams history with the Bills, but the Colts like that he's under contract for a few more years, and again, they think that he has a higher defensive ceiling than Milton. So, anything else stand out to you with roster cuts or?
No, I mean we kind of knew it was coming, but our guy Krishan Hogan got let go, and
no practice squad for him.
Yeah,
Kept the Ashton Doolin over Hogan. A little surprised by that. I mean, Hogan had a great month, man.
He did. He
Great
did.
month.
So, hopefully seeing him get picked up somewhere else, but knew it was coming. Still kind of a bummer.
And before we move into Twitter questions, we saw a couple trades. Nate Hairston, we touched on, I think, on last week's podcast. Then we saw Evan Boehm move down to Miami. And that's smart. That's just good GM work by Chris Ballard. You didn't need to have Nate Hairston or Evan Boehm on your roster. I didn't think Evan Boehm was going to make it. And you've improved your draft capital for 2020 in a small way, but in a way that allows you to do some things if you need to do that next April. So I thought those are two really wise moves. Ballard actually said he had a couple calls about a few more people on their roster, which is something new for him based off where the Colts have been at roster-wise the previous two seasons.
All right, man, you want to do some Twitter questions?
Yes.
All right. Start with Mitchell. He asks, why would the Colts go hard after Hoyer when they could have traded for a young, upcoming Josh Rosen?
I don't think the Colts are the biggest Josh Rosen fans. I'll just leave it at that. And then secondly, you want a veteran backup. I think what you're trying to do with this Jacoby Brissett situation, Joey, is remove as many distractions as you can. Brian Hoyer does not bring a whole lot from a distraction standpoint. Josh Rosen will have Jacoby Brissett looking over his shoulder. And I guess we can argue two things here, Joey. The Colts firmly believe Jacoby Brissett is their franchise quarterback. This person clearly doesn't. I am a bit skeptical. I don't know. I'm not sitting here fully on board with Jacoby Brissett's a top 20 quarterback. How about Peter King having him third in the MVP voting?
Huh?
Did you see that?
No.
Peter King had Jacoby Brissett finishing third in the MVP voting.
I'm just, okay.
Peter King,
right.
Monday morning quarterback, or Football Morning in America prediction column yesterday. Patrick Mahomes 1, Carson Wentz 2, Jacoby Brissett 3.
Surprisingly, a lot of national people are still really high on the Colts.
Yeah. I mean, he had the Colts winning the AFC South. I was just like, Andrew Luck didn't get a single MVP vote in his career. Jacoby Brissett's going to walk in here and get third in the MVP voting?
Oh, I mean, a lot of people, really he's kind of playing with house money because if he does anything more than win 7 games.
But third in the MVP voting. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to, you're the most improved player. I don't know if the NFL even gives out that award, but, you make strides. Yeah, you go 9-7.
Yeah.
You have a third in the year.
For sure.
But anyways, Rosen, no. And like I said, the Colts are just trying to remove distractions here. They firmly believe in Jacoby Brissett. We can debate that, but this is how the Colts are looking at it. They don't want any sort of inkling of like you're looking over your shoulder thinking somebody else is coming for your job. And frankly, they just don't like a guy like Josh Rosen. And I was kind of skeptical of Rosen coming out anyway. So I think I've said it before in this podcast. I'll say it again. You either move forward, Jacoby Brissett shows you something this year, and you move forward with him, or you draft a quarterback in 2020.
From Ivan, with the injuries to the Chargers and the overall mood surrounding the team, is Sunday a must-win game? Week 1.
For what? I mean,
I'm not sure. Maybe for the morale? I don't know.
oh, it's not a must-win game. I mean, like, has this game gotten easier than if you would have told me 3 weeks ago? Like, hey, Andrew Luck's going to be retired. He's going to retire. Yes, Derwin James, Melvin Gordon, Russell Okung. Those are huge, huge names missing for the Chargers on Sunday. But I still can't sit here and say it's a must-win. Like, you can lose this game and still have a 10-6 season. Like, I do think the AFC South, and we'll get into this a little bit more on Thursday's podcast. We'll do a season game-by-game prediction. The AFC South is not some crazy juggernaut. Like, you can still win the division at 9-7 or 10-6. And that's with a loss. I mean, I thought the Colts would lose on Sunday originally before the Andrew Luck saga happened and go 11-5. So, yeah, I don't look at it as a must. I think you're playing with a bit of house money. But I've seen the spread go from, like, 3 originally when the schedule first came out.
Yep.
It's all the way up to, like, 7, and now it's kind of trending down to 6.
Yep.
So I think some people are betting on the Colts.
From Randy Sharp, given the state of the Chargers' O-line, does Rivers actually talk trash Sunday to Leonard, Autry, Houston, Toure, etc.?
Oh, Phillip Rivers would talk trash if it was you and me as his bookend tackles.
This is 85 Bears, so you'd talk trash.
Right.
I don't care.
That Phil could have his 9 kids around him on offense, and he'd still talk trash.
From Jason, the Colts decided to keep 6 wide receivers on the final roster. Do you think Fountain gets that last spot if he doesn't get injured?
It's a good question. You know, it's a hypothetical I've thought about. I still think no, because he just doesn't help you out on special teams. Like, Chester Rogers and Zach Pascal are on this team for special teams reasons. And Fountain, I think, still needed to, like, prove himself because he got hurt before the Browns preseason game. So I think he still would have needed, like, another big preseason game or 2. But still, I mean, special teams, when you're dressing a 46-man roster on game day, Reese Fountain's not a better wideout than Hilton, Funchess, Kane, or Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
So do you need a 5th wideout when you play so many double tight end sets and Nyheim Hines is a hybrid wideout anyways? No, you just don't. So I know probably some people will disagree with that, but I think Zach Pascal still would have made this team, again, given what he can do on special teams.
From T. Scott, please address Krishan Hogan's disappearance from any team's roster or even practice squad. What did I miss watching him kick ass all preseason for seemingly nothing?
It's a great question. T-Bone?
T. Scott.
T. Scott.
He says, throw me a bone.
Throw me a bone. T. Scott's a good question. You know, Joey and I touched on it earlier. I love the size. I love the frame. I mean, it doesn't help you out on special teams, so I think that's a hindrance. I think we're Krishan Hogan, and maybe this is me trying to, you know, I want something good to happen to a guy that I feel like is a pretty good guy. I think if an injury occurred, Joey, to like your receiving core, Krishan Hogan would have a better chance to climb into that group. You know, he'd kind of bypass some of the special teams guys that are on your team. Like, kind of like Dontrell Inman last year. Like, Dontrell Inman doesn't play special teams.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a dire need for a wideout, that's where I think Hogan could maybe climb a bit and come into your wideout group. So I'd be pretty surprised if they go the entire 2019 season and Krishan Hogan is not on a 53-man roster.
From Tampa Gabe, the Colts will obviously still bend a little on defense this year, but what are they going to do differently this year to reduce those 10-plus play drives?
Well, they're going to play a little bit more man coverage. and they hope that their pass rush can get to the quarterback by just rushing 4 a little bit more often. But, I still am in kind of prove-it mode with the bend but don't break, totally out the window sort of thing. I still think they're going to play a similar core, sort of philosophical approach to their defense of, hey, we'll give up the checkdowns, but we think eventually you're going to make a mistake. I still think they will largely play that, but I do think there will be a little bit more of diversity in what they do on the defensive end. But, Joey, what happens when they played the elite quarterbacks last year? We know what happened. Long days. So you're going to get tested in week 1, and you're going to get tested a lot early in the season. So I'm very eager. We really never saw the full starting 11 defense together in the preseason. We saw the starting offense together. The starting defense, maybe a little bit early in that Browns game, but I think Darius Leonard exited after like 6 or 8 snaps. It wasn't on the field for very long. So
what do you think happens? Because you got week 1, Rivers on the road. Week 3, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley.
Right.
Week 5, Patrick Mahomes on the road. But what about week 4? Derek Carr, Tyrell Williams, Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Sneaky kind of pain in the rear game?
Yes. Like game right now that we all sit here and say, you have to win that game.
Yeah.
And a game that I don't think would be that crazy to look up in the fourth quarter and be like, oh my God. Hell, you almost lost to the Raiders last year.
Right.
Out there.
Uh-huh.
They are not as talented, or they are more talented this year offensively, certainly. But then you look at the Raiders, you're like, they have so much dysfunction right now.
Yeah.
Is Antonio Brown going to be in the NFL by week 4?
Right.
It's crazy to look at, but that's why, Joey, I still think this team will hover around 500. I do. But that start to the season, at the Chargers, at the Titans, home to the Falcons, home to the Raiders, at the Chiefs. Those are your first 5 games before you go into a bye week. There's not a lot of games that I write W next to in Sharpie marker right now. It's not home to the Dolphins, not home to the Titans, not home to Broncos. Yeah, some of your easier games that you play at the Bucks, you probably think is a win right now. Those aren't there early in the season. And yes, last year you were able to be a resilient football team, but if you suffer a same sort of poor start, no 2 seasons are ever the same in the NFL. And we just cannot. We can't overlook that Andrew Luck is no longer this team's quarterback. That's a significant loss. I'm going to write something later in the week of like, what are the Colts missing in Andrew Luck? Because kind of like I said earlier in the show, I feel like we've all of a sudden crowned Jacoby Brissett as this Pro Bowl quarterback. Like there was a reason Andrew Luck was Andrew Luck, and let's realize that there will be differences in these 2 quarterbacks.
From @stuff Bill said, doesn't specify which Bill, just Bill.
Oh, I thought it was you saying Bills, Buffalo Bills.
Which Colts backup has better hair, Brian Hoyer or Matt Hasselbeck back in the day?
Bill. Sense of humor chiming in on the Sunday morning. I do look at this signing of Hoyer and think Hasselbeck. Hasselbeck was a more accomplished, definitely starting quarterback in the NFL, went to some Pro Bowls and went to a Super Bowl. But at that point of Hasselbeck's career, I think it was kind of similar to what Hoyer is going to be asked to do. Jacoby Brissett, you just looked it up, Joey, 26 years old.
Yep.
That's still relatively young, especially at quarterback. And he started less than 20 games in his career. So, hell, mentor Jacoby Brissett a little bit, and especially mentor Swag, whenever Swag gets back.
From Nathan White, who can reconcile the Colts' new Vegas win total of 6.5, depending on where you look, to this weird new trend in the media of projecting Colts to still win the AFC South?
Yeah, that's a good question. Vegas seems to know all. They say 6.5, and then all of a sudden,
Andy Benoit is going AFC Championship.
In the Super Bowl.
Peter King, MVP.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd probably set the over-under right now at 7.5. 6.5 is pretty low, isn't it?
It really is weird because, yes, up front when you hear 6.5, it is. But then, like you just said, you run through the schedule on paper.
In the early start, I will emphasize that so many times here over the next few weeks. Like, if you can just get out of the gate, if you can get to 2-3 by week 5, I think you win. I think you win at least 7 games. But it is a division that, yes, it's not a great division, and like we don't sit here and say that team's going to the Super Bowl or that team can win 11 or 12 games. But you don't sit here at all and think the Colts will be favored by more than 4 points over any team in the division all year long.
Yeah.
It's a very, like, all 6 division games, you will go into and think the Colts could win this game, and the Colts could also potentially lose this game. And I don't think there's another division of football that you say that. Either way, at the top end or at the bottom end.
From Robert, if Luck had retired prior to the draft, free agency starting, do you think the Colts' offseason approach would have changed much, if at all?
It's a great question. Who is that, Roger?
Robert,
great question. Man. I don't think a whole lot. I think you probably bring in a Brian Hoyer-like guy earlier in the offseason. But I just think they are so steadfast in Jacoby Brissett. They are. They're obsessed with the dude. So, yeah, I think that's the only thing you would have done. I don't know what else. You know, maybe do you make a move for more of a bona fide running back? It's interesting to me, Joey, that this huge emphasis on the run game this year, and you've brought back the same starting offensive line and the same 4 running backs. These 4 running backs, they ended the season on the 53-man roster. You don't usually see that, period, at the running back position in the NFL. And it shows you, obviously, it's much more of a approach mindset to improving the run game. But I don't know. What do you think? Anything they would have done differently? I mean, quarterback-wise?
No, I mean, like you said, when they refer to Jacoby Brissett as the answer, if you feel that the guy is the answer and is your man, then no. And I mean, they've been that way even last year when he was clearly the backup, talking about high praise of Jacoby Brissett. So,
and let me go back to that answer that Frank Reich had that Joey's referencing that I mentioned earlier in the podcast. The question was not meant to be like, show how much you believe in Jacoby Brissett. That wasn't what I was going for at all. I was just generally curious, like, from a timing standpoint, what does an extra 3 months allow you to do with handling your quarterback position? And Frank Reich turned it into, all of a sudden, yes, he answered it, and then he's like, Jacoby Brissett, he is our man. He is the answer. That was how Reich's kind of voice inflection shot up. Of like, you are the guy. You're almost kind of grabbing him by the shoulders. You know, I think of like so many like high school football scenes where it's like the star quarterback gets hurt and here comes the nerdy backup.
Yeah, remember the Titans.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you're grabbing him on the shoulder and you're like, no, I shouldn't say Joey. Like, whatever. Billy, you're the quarterback. You have to go lead the huddle. That's almost kind of like what I felt like Frank Reich was saying of like, this is our guy. You are not some placeholder. This is not a stopgap. So, yeah, to answer Robert's question, I think probably bringing in a veteran earlier in the offseason would have been the only major difference.
From Joe, is $10 million guaranteed per year below average for a, quote, top 20 quarterback? Brissett hasn't proven that he can win big games, so I'm not saying he is over or underpaid. Still needs to prove his value. Your thoughts?
Well, Joe, I think it goes back to how I described this contract situation earlier in the pod. It is a difference, Joey, in how you normally handle contracts. You are not rewarding Jacoby Brissett for what he's necessarily done. You're almost saying you've been promoted by default. Here's more money, and we believe in you, and we don't want you to get nervous and be worried about your uncertain future, so here's more money. But I don't think I would have to look at the guarantees closer. His contract of $15 million annually, if you break down the per year average, that's ranked 19th in the NFL. So I don't think that's too absurd. Because usually when quarterbacks sign on the dotted line, they usually like skyrocket to like a top 5 or top 10 paid quarterback, just with how the flow of quarterbacks get paid each offseason. So the Colts are in a nice cap situation. In cap 101, this is probably not the smartest thing to do just because you go down a dangerous slope of like starting to pay players when they don't truly prove themselves. But I think
a little different with the quarterback. Yeah,
could not agree more. I was just about to say, quarterback is a unique position.
Sure.
It's totally different, and this is a really unique scenario that you're into. So again, I have no issue with paying Jacoby Brissett the type of money that you're paying him.
Thomas wants to know, does Chad Kelly have to clear waivers before we can stash him on the practice squad?
Yes, Thomas, he does.
Is it likely that he does? Then he wants
very
to know.
good question. I say no. I don't know. I feel like some team out there. There's some team out there that will try to do what the Colts did a few years ago with a guy like Stephen Morris. When they claim Stephen Morris.
Well, does a divisional opponent stash him? Try to? Does Jacksonville or something go in there?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I was talking with a colleague of mine, and he was thinking, did the Colts sign Cardell Jones, who just got cut from the Chargers?
Yeah.
Would he have been?
For sure.
And then would the Chargers say, okay, hold my beer, let's sign Philip Walker to the practice squad?
Yeah.
It's something that we probably see a little bit in the NFL, but we don't see a whole lot. I'd say right now, chances Chad Kelly clears waivers, 38%.
Wow. Good for you for not, copping out with like 40 or 50 or 38.
I mean, I still think that there are some teams that'll be like, all right, we feel really good about our quarterback situation. And there will be some teams that scored 13 total points in the first 2 weeks of the season and say, what the are we doing at quarterback?
Now, let's say that he does get picked up by an opponent or a divisional opponent for the Colts. How much really does that impact? Is he really able to give a whole lot of info?
I don't think a whole lot. I mean, maybe some terminology to like help your defense at the line of scrimmage, but would the Colts then just change those things? I think at times that gets a bit overblown.
For sure.
And, I mean, Chad Kelly's only been there for, 3 months?
Right.
4 months?
For Mike, would you be shocked if Jacoby led the Colts to an 11 or 12 win season?
Yeah, I would. Shocked? Yeah. Surprised, certainly. I guess shocked I now kind of put in the Andrew Luck retirement category. I would definitely be surprised, though. I thought the Colts would win 11 games with Andrew Luck. So I can't sit here and say that I'd be like, oh, yeah, Jacoby Brissett won 11 games? Yeah.
Saw it coming.
That wouldn't surprise me. Hell yeah, I saw that coming. Yeah, bet the mortgage on it. No. It's something that would definitely surprise me.
From Colts fan NY, so I'm guessing Colts fan in NY, please do a comparison of Luck and Brissett from all aspects. I keep hearing Brissett is the future, but I'm not sure what's so special here.
Well, it's a good question. I think it's a very fair question. What the Colts love about Jacoby Brissett is this. They love his big arm. They love his toughness. And they think they've seen some growth in other areas of his game. In rhythm passing, pre-snap responsibilities. I think him and Luck are similar in that they both do a nice job of keeping plays alive with their feet. I would say Luck is a better athlete than Jacoby Brissett.
Yes.
But I guess this kind of goes off my question of earlier, Joey. Andrew Luck was a damn good quarterback. Damn good quarterback.
Top 5.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I think top 5. Some people might be like, he's more in the 6 to 8 range. Whatever. He's a nice quarterback in this league. And when I post the story to 1075thefan.com later this week, I think everyone will see just like there was a reason why the Colts won at least 8 games every year Andrew Luck was quarterback. There was a reason why they had 20-some fourth quarter comebacks in his career. Now, did Luck do some damage early in games to get them behind? Sure, at times he did. Has Jacoby Brissett, I think he's had 1 fourth quarter comeback in nearly 20 NFL starts. Like, there are reasons why Andrew Luck went number 1 overall and Jacoby Brissett went, 85 overall or wherever he was drafted. I would say what the Colts will miss most about Luck, 4 things stand out to me, Joey. The extension of plays is one. Mm-hmm. Consistent ability to extend plays and then have the confidence to still know where the route trees are and keep your head down the field and make those plays through the air. Number 2, the clutch moments. 3rd down, red zone, 2-minute. 3rd, his rapport with T.Y. Hilton, I think, is second to none. It's right up there with any other quarterback wideout duo currently in the NFL. And Hilton just hasn't been the same receiver when Luck hasn't been under center. And then 4, and I'm not even going with Luck's accuracy, which I think Luck's accuracy on underneath stuff is better than Jacoby Brissett. And 4, I would say pre-snap. Luck's ability to get the Colts in pass protection, Luck's ability to handle the run game, and knowing when the numbers look bleak in the run game and changing play calls to the line of scrimmage. All those are areas that I think that one will be a little bit harder to look at. But the other areas a little bit will be easier. That's why I think there's a 3 to 4 win difference in Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett.
From Zach, with signing Hoyer and Brissett yesterday, does that eliminate the possibility of drafting a quarterback in this upcoming draft?
No, I don't think it eliminates. Does it maybe lessen it? Yes, it does, but I don't think, unless Jacoby Brissett goes like 10-6 and you feel like you're status quo at quarterback, right now I'd say better than 50-50 chance that they draft a quarterback. Especially, if Chad Kelly leaves, I would think you'd want to draft a quarterback like in the 5th or 6th round to be your next potentially Chad Kelly. And Brian Hoyer will be, 34, I think, next month? I mean, he's not getting any younger either.
From Suarez, what's the most outrageous conspiracy theory you've come across regarding Andrew Luck's retirement?
Oh, God. I'm sure you could chime in with this as well, Joey. I hosted last week from 10 to noon. We did local. Usually that's national talk show for us here on 107.5 The Fan. But we did local, and so I hosted for a few days and had someone call in saying that they heard. I don't even know if they heard. I think this is their belief that Luck's wife, Nicole, was having complications with her pregnancy. And that's why Luck ended up retiring. It's quite the bold statement to make, and certainly if she is, you feel awful for her. But, what could possibly, first off, we see her in the public light. We watched her. I don't know if you were at training camp practice that day, but she was there. Yeah. Just chumming it up with Andrew and Marcus Brady and Jacoby Brissett and all those people. She was at the press conference. She went into the locker room. I think Andrew Luck would look pretty respected if he mentioned, there are some personal things that I need to tend to first. He hasn't mentioned that at all. And then, lastly, not to make light of potentially if she were to have these issues, wouldn't you just take a year off? Wouldn't you take a leave of absence? Wouldn't you go on IR? The Colts offered him all of those opportunities.
Right.
Why would you upright retire from the NFL and give the indication that there's no way that you're coming back, at least at the time?
Right. I think the craziest one that I saw, maybe just because it just seemed so why the hell and just weird, but was that Luck and Mrs. Luck wanted to go to Hawaii and have him get a mental break and a rehab, not even rehab. He just needed to get away and
rest his mind
and get back to what would the phrase be? Normalcy? Yeah. And that the front office said no, and then they offered him, you go on, IR for the first 8 weeks to come back, but we don't want you going there. And then he said, no, I want to go there. And then he said, well, if I can't, then I'm retiring. It just didn't seem like a Luck thing to do. Hawaii? I don't know.
Hawaii doesn't seem like a Luck.
He wants to go on vacation for this long? Yeah. It's if he's going to go somewhere for a leave of absence, he's got to go to the Czech Republic or, somewhere like that.
And the wife is due in a few months. You would think they're going to stay here in Indianapolis and have the baby here, I would assume. I don't know many 30-week, 35-week pregnant wives that just travel the world.
True.
That's another reason I'm kind of I don't think there's these crazy. Yes, I've heard a lot of crazy conspiracy theories, and I'm sure the more I hear, the more I'll share them on this podcast because I do laugh at a lot of them. I've said it before, and I will say it numerous times. The guy was just unwilling to continue to make the sacrifices it takes to play football.
Yep.
From a rehab, pain threshold standpoint. And look, you can call him soft, you can call him a quitter, whatever makes you sleep better at night. But that is exactly what Andrew Luck decided to choose. He was willing to make those sacrifices the first 5 years in the NFL. And if you want to be known as one of the greats to ever play the game, you have to be willing to continue to do that. And he no longer was willing to do that because that impacted his personal life. When he was hurt, that impacted his life as a now husband, soon to be father, brother, son, insert whatever relationship you want to. Some people can kind of, I don't know if silo's the right word, but like some people can put their work life here and their personal life here and not have those two things.
Compartmentalize.
Yes. Compartmentalize. Great word. Cannot have those things intersect. Clearly, Andrew Luck cannot do that.
Yep.
No longer can do that. No longer wants to do that.
That's the bigger thing, for sure.
Once.
From Wyatt. With the conservative approach many teams took this summer regarding playing time for veterans, have we seen the last of 4-game preseason schedules? Would that, in turn, lead to an 18-game regular season? If so, would rosters grow from the current 53-man?
Wow, there's a lot there, Wyatt. God, I hope the preseason for 4 games is done.
Same.
I've thrown out 3. You would alternate every year, whether you have 2 home games or not. So basically, the new CBA signs a 10-year deal. That means everybody will have the even amount of home games over the course of that 10, because I know owners would still want more revenue from their preseason games that they get. So that is what I would do. 18 games, Joey, I don't know. We haven't really talked about this on the podcast. I might be in the minority on this. I'm good with 16.
Great with 16.
You know, too much of something, it gets a little bit like, and I don't want to even go down to 18 games and you only play certain guys 16 games. Hell no, that just, my brain would explode. And maybe I'm a bit of a purist and traditionalist. I like judging kind of NFL stats off, 16-game seasons and things like that. So what was this third one? Oh, rosters expanding.
Yeah.
I think if you went to 18, you would have to expand.
Yeah.
You would definitely, probably up to 60-ish, somewhere around there.
Benji has an interesting theory here that I can definitely chime in on, but I'll start with you, of course. Benji wants to know, is the career ceiling for Jacoby Brissett Ben Roethlisberger?
Wow. That's a high ceiling. Well, you're the Steeler guy. You want to chime in first?
I get the comparisons. Big arm. Mobile enough, but not
for sure
Lamar Jackson by any means, or Steve Young or whoever. I don't know. Sometimes I think folks around here truly forget how good Ben Roethlisberger is.
Damn good. Hall of Fame good.
And how good he's been for 15-plus years now.
I mean, Jacoby Brissett's going to be 27 years old later this year.
By that time, Big Ben, I think, had already won 2 Super Bowls and was getting ready to go to his 3rd. Now, I know that Pittsburgh, of course, yes, they had a better team and better, but still, we've seen that you're not getting to the Super Bowl unless you got a quarterback that can play.
Right. Yeah.
So that's my thing, is that I can see where you can kind of have a comp for that.
Mm-hmm.
If he's coming out on draft night, or it reminds you of like a Big Ben. They even wear the same number, blah, blah, blah. I get it.
Yeah.
But I just think that aespecially around here and around a lot of places, people forget just how high that ceiling of Big Ben is.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a big ceiling. I don't know where the ceiling is for Jacoby Brissett. I don't. I'm really unsure of that right now. Maybe a notch below Big Ben, and I wish I had a player kind of top of mind for me to insert there. But that's kind of where I would go right now. Ben Roethlisberger is a really good quarterback. He'll go down as one of the, top 15-ish, 20 quarterbacks ever play the game, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at his stats, when it's all said and done.
Still got a few years left.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's crazy what he's done. So, let me think about that a little bit more. But I would say whatever is a notch below Big Ben, I think that's the ceiling for Jacoby.
From Laura, which defensive rookie will play the most snaps this Sunday in L.A.?
Laura, that is a great question. Defensive rookie. Wow. Kari Willis, Bobby Okereke, EJ Speed, Ben Banagoo. I will say either Willis or Okereke But, man, I don't know. I say Okereke because I'm not sure. Like, Anthony Walker didn't play 99% of the snaps week in and week out, unlike Darius Leonard. So when Walker comes off the field, I don't think that's all just dime packages he comes off the field. When you go into nickel, do you put a new linebacker onto the field for him? That's why I think Okereke could play. Willis, he might not even play, to be honest with you, because if you go to your dime, Clayton Geathers stays at safety. Where do you bring Quincy Wilson in? If Geathers goes down to the dime linebacker, then you put Willis on the field. You're going to rotate a lot on the D-line, so Banagou's going to play a few snaps, you would think. That's a really good one. And then you have EJ Speed. Oh, boy. All right, Laura, I'll go with Willis, Geathers, Banagou, Speed.
You mean Okereke for Geathers?
Yeah. Sorry. Willis, Okereke, Banagou, Speed. But that's a really hard one. I don't have a crystal clear picture on that.
From Richard Bilby, last luck question. I keep replaying his comment about feeling pressure owing the stakeholders. Personally, 85% of me believes that his decision to retire was as reported about a week before. But this is the 15% that makes me wonder if it was discussed prior.
Yeah, when I think Andrew talks about stakeholders, in his eyes, the more important stakeholders are the guys inside that locker room. Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, all of those people. If Jim Irsay really wanted season ticket holders' money, why the hell is he giving Andrew Luck $24 million? Mm-hmm. Why? Like, that to me doesn't add up if there's like some sort of quote-unquote hush money that Andrew Luck is getting. So I don't think there's any grand conspiracy theories. I know that sounds juicy, but I think at the end of the day, Andrew Luck was like, all right, I'm going to come to training camp. I'm going to try and give it a go. And when he had the setback on that Sunday, and then it became a new diagnosis. It went from calf to ankle and a bone in between all that. That, I think, really rubbed Luck the wrong way of like, holy shit, I'm going down this road again.
Yeah.
And I think that's when everything turned. I firmly believe Andrew Luck thought he was going to play football throughout the 2019 offseason. I don't think any sort of conspiracy theory arose here.
From Country Boy Eddie, considering how good the rest of the roster is, how good does Brissett have to be to get this team to the playoffs and potentially make some sort of a run?
Oh, I think he's still got to be good. I mean, quarterback's got to make plays, people. This is not the 85 Bears defense. The offense is good, but I don't think we look at it and it's like, Scott Tolzien could quarterback them to 9 wins. I don't think this roster's improved, but it's not one of the 5 best rosters in the NFL. I don't think we're going to sit here and say that. So, I know I've touched on these plays before, but if you came with Beers with Bowen, you saw highlights of Andrew Luck's 2018 season where tie ball game, 3rd down, 2-minute, red zone, Andrew Luck single-handedly makes plays that win the Colts those football games. 3 different games. Chester Rogers pass against the Dolphins, a scramble against the New York Giants, the Dontrell Inman touchdown against the Titans in the Week 17 season finale. Those are plays your quarterback has got to make at butt-clinching time. When, the moms are in the crowd biting their fingernails and you're hoping there's one more beer run in the 4th quarter because the game's getting close, who's going to step up and deliver for you? Can Jacoby Brissett make those plays? Can he make those plays? That's the question.
From Casey with a K, what's Brissett's closest comp? Current or former NFL QBs?
Damn. That's a good one. I saw somebody yell out Nick Foles.
I got one for you.
Give it to me.
Dante Culpepper.
Oh. I love when Dante would have touchdowns and do his little
travel. Yeah.
Man, him and Randy Moss just
big arm.
Balls. Yeah.
Athletic enough to move, but not mobile.
was funny. I looked up his NFL draft profile when he came out, and I think Daniel Jeremiah at the time compared him to a guy that I don't even know if he's still in the league. Brett Hundley. Remember from UCLA?
I think he's better than him.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly. Yeah, better than him, based off where Hundley's career went. But current NFL comp, I don't. Yeah, I mean, find me a big arm quarterback that you need to kind of fine tune some things, I think, and is tough and can hang in the pocket, make some plays with his legs, not an abundance of plays, but yeah.
From Lucas Robbins, with Jadeveon traded from the AFC South, it's more wide open than ever. Which team is the biggest obstacle to the Colts trying to win the division this year?
I mean, call me crazy, but I still think it's Houston. I know the Laramie Tunsil trade is outrageous on paper, but I think what the Texans are doing is they're like, all right, our franchise was sacked more than any other quarterback in the NFL last year. We cannot have that happen. And we are willing to mortgage. Basically, they are saying to themselves, we're mortgaging our future anyways, exposing Deshaun Watson to the O-line that we currently have. Why not just mortgage our future draft picks and hopefully we'll have a player in return that can help out our issue right now on the O-line. So, in a division filled with so much parity, you go with the best quarterback, and Deshaun Watson is the best quarterback in this division. So, if you're going to make me pick today, I'd say Houston wins 9, Jacksonville wins 8, Indy wins 7, Tennessee wins 6, Tennessee wins 7. I don't know. What do you think?
YouTube commenters not going to be happy about that one.
Just that everybody thinks the Colts are going to win the division? I just don't, like, we've called this division a division filled with parity and maybe the best top-to-bottom division in football. And you lose Andrew Luck, and now all of a sudden you're still supposed to win the division? Like, were the Colts going to go 14-2 with this schedule, and now they're going to go 11-5 and win the division?
No, for sure.
I just don't. I can't sit here right now and say it's a foregone conclusion that the Colts win this division. I can't. Sorry, I don't believe in Jacoby Brissett as crazy as Peter King believes in him, or some other people do. Like, you're playing a better schedule. The NFL, you have to prove yourself year in and year out, and you're gonna have to show me early in the year that those things that I'm skeptical about can be checked off the box before I sit here and project a win total that I would have projected similar to Andrew Luck's win total.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think 7's out of the question either. I think that you look at it 5-3 at home, I think would be a fair slate.
And I think you'd probably have to go 6-2 at home if you're going to win the division.
Right. Possibly 6-2 at home, but I think that 2-6 on the road is definitely fair right now.
And that's why I think if you're able to steal one of these first 2 games, that can go a long, long way in, improving this season. But I would say Houston, I don't know. Are you on the Jacksonville train?
No.
Some people are.
No, I'm not. Mostly because Deshaun Watson's my fantasy quarterback that I just drafted last year. So definitely hoping that he shows out.
The real story comes out here on Kevin's Corner.
All right. You want to do a couple more about hour 10?
Yeah.
Okay. From Anton, what's the upside of Deion Kane? He's higher than Campbell on the depth chart, and I'd bet he's supplanting Funchess.
I mean, the upside's huge. I mean, I think I said it before. I think at some point in the season, Deion Kane could overtake Devin Funchess for being the number 2 wideout. I do. I think there's a real potential there. Health-wise, it seems to check the box, and I can't wait to see just how Frank Reich uses those wideouts on Sunday. Really interested to see the playing time for those guys.
From Drew Masterson, let's end on this one, Kevin. I think this is a fun one, at least over here. What's more likely? The Colts make it to the AFC title game, or they finish with a top 3 draft pick?
Oh, boy. Man. That's a good one.
Really opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much saying 4-12 or 12-4.
Yeah.
I think 12-4, Joey. I think you really got to be bad to draft top 3. And he's saying you finish with a top 3 record. He's not saying that you end up drafting top 3, basically, trading up to get a top 3 pick. So, yeah, I mean, I think both are obviously long shots. But the season totally bottoming out, I can't see that happening.
Same.
But yeah, that's just me.
All right, that's there's a few left, but we're running pretty long here. So if there's any you want to get to, just let me know.
Yeah. Let me just touch on a couple here. T asks, what exactly is a practice squad? How does it work? 10 guys in your practice squad, they practice. That's what they do. I think they get $7,000 a week. Some guys a little bit more than others. Pretty good salary, honestly. You can promote them at any time. Teams can claim your practice squad guys. If they do that, they have to be on your active roster for 3 straight weeks. Corey, it seems like national reporters break major stories on teams instead of local reporters who cover a team daily. What would you say the reason is for that? Bigger agents wanting to make sure that that they're in with a vast audience. Simply put, I mean, big agencies want the national people to, they want to have a good rapport with them. Yeah. I mean, chasing breaking news is that's a lot, man. I don't do much of it. I'm more in just let's analyze the stories. I mean, that can be a lot, man, trying to find all that stuff. And I think it's kind of a shady business, to be frank with you. All right. I think that's it. We got a couple more, but I'll save them for Thursday's podcast.
All right, sounds good, brother. So we'll be back on Thursday previewing week 1?
Yeah, probably Thursday. Maybe Friday morning, because we're coming at you a little bit later in the week than usual. And I think moving forward, Joey, I'd like to do Monday afternoon, Thursday afternoon. I think when we get into the flow of the season.
Recap and preview. Yeah.
Recap and preview. That will be our goal moving forward. 1075thefan.com. We just posted a depth chart takeaway article. The Colts have released their first official depth chart of 2019 for the regular season. So some takeaways on that. And, yeah, I think that's it, man. If you haven't already, please subscribe and rate Kevin's Corner podcast. It really means a lot for you. I know we're excited for the regular season. And I think a lot of fans are, even though it's been a pretty chaotic past 10 days for Colts Nation. So he's Joey Molinaro. I'm Kevin Bowen. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back in a few days here on Kevin's Corner. This has been Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to another edition of Kevin's Corner. If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher for the best Colts and Pacers coverage.